Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and this edition for Friday, the 21st of October, comes to you from London. And we start by looking at the dollar index this morning here in London. Dollar showing a strong week here. That's the little weekly candle there. That's the last 5 bars on this chart, just showing you moving higher still. And that really shows up here, of course. That 1 bar up there represents this chart here, long-term, medium-term, and short-term charts. So that's the way to look at this. Keeping this long-term and medium-term picture in front of you at all times, just to remind ourselves where the bigger trends are and and how they're influencing the shorter-term trends on these cloud charts. And we see here really that we've had a breakout in the last 24 hours. So dollar index looking strong. This 103 target given back in June is the one that we're aiming for, about 5% upside. Upside targets here on the medium-term chart. We do have these downside targets, but boy oh boy do we have some big upside targets here. Neither of those downside targets activated. We need new lows to do that, and the upside targets here have actually been activated on this first one. If we make to new highs, then that really implies a lot of dollar strength. And of course that then means euro weakness, and we're seeing that playing out on the chart. This another bad week here. Last few days, euro really collapsing away here, below 109 this morning, and this 101 target activated, so parity. And here we see these lower targets all to play for as well. Lots more downside than upside on the euro, so looking pretty bearish and continuing to look bearish this week. If we look at the Japanese yen as a proxy for what's happening with the dollar, it's bearish long term, dollar against the yen, yen strength here, but we're just seeing the daily cloud coming through now. So that is implying a medium term reversal where the dollar will continue to strengthen against the yen. And here we see the 60-minute chart, upside targets here, uptrend, starting to look pretty bullish against the yen. So dollar strength is really the name of the game. Sterling has had a little bit of respite this week. That shows up in this little candle here, but in fact it's just really a sideways move this week so far, and we are just starting to head back into negative territory. Of course, if you want to know what's going on with sterling, go to the 1 minute chart and hit the T key on the Updata system, and we see here that we've got this downside target here of 121.40, and we're back in the downtrend. So quite key there that we've actually got this downward pressure. Just vary the size of the box here, and we see more downside targets to play for. Only half to 1%, but that just is putting more pressure on the dollar. Coming back to sterling, coming back to trust this 11th of October low point. So that's keep an eye on that 1 minute chart there. If we look against the euro, we see here that sterling is just recovering a little bit, just showing that euro weakness highlighted right now. Just another one that we do take a look at is the Australian dollar. This has just now reversed as well. Sterling showing a little bit of strength against the Aussie, but really still a pretty bearish picture in the long and medium term. Just some short-term respite going on. Taking a look at the US stock market, just held on to that 2140 level last night, and we are still just below the cloud here. So it's quite key that we're just struggling to get into this bullish territory. And if you want to know what's going on in the S&P, don't be afraid to just go straight to the chart and look at the trends here. So we can see here the 2180, 2190 level, and this 2120, 2118 level. That's the range we're stuck in at the moment. A move to the downside would be bearish, a move to the upside would be bullish. We're just waiting for the market to break. Take a look at the 1 minute chart. And of course this data all coming off the Bloomberg terminal, and we see here, if we go down to the 1 minute box size, we see we've really got this tassel just showing up in the 1 minute chart. And really, again, it's just that these key levels that we're struggling to break right now. About 2180 there, we just saw here how we just couldn't get above it, and the same applies when we look to the downside. 2118, 2119, that's the level that we're struggling to. We've got a downside target at 2118, that wouldn't be catastrophic. We've got an upside target at 2179, top of the range. That wouldn't be an amazing break either. So really at the moment it's all about the range, and these are the charts to keep an eye on. for any sign of a break. If we take a look at the Nasdaq, Nasdaq just starting to come back through on the cloud here, so that's starting to look a bit more bullish. We're seeing the futures not showing any great signs this morning in London of moving to the upside yet, so it'll all be about where we close for the week. If we look at the FTSE 100 index, just this morning, just starting back above the 77,000 level, and really just starting to look a bit more bullish, just coming through on this 60-minute chart. Upside targets here. Again, if you want to look at the 1-minute chart and targets for what's going on in the FTSE. The FTSE 250, the more domestically laden index, not looking as good right now, so the big caps leading. DAX is just struggling again at this 10,750 level. We are just getting above it this morning, bullish above the cloud on the short term, upside potential of about anywhere between 3 and 6.5%. And we see here that we're just testing that level as we speak. Just starting to emerge as bullish on the long term. So the German market's starting to look a little bit better. And if we look at Asian markets, bullish on the short term on the Nikkei, still a long-term bearishness, but bullish with upside targets as high as 7-8% here. So a lot to play for. And this trend change in the medium term, again, 8% upside targets there. So really key. And if we look at the Shanghai composite, we see here much the same. 3% upside, but we are bearish in the long term. Remember these point and figure charts are the 1% log scale, 0.5% log scale, and the 0.1% on the 60-minute chart. So quite key there. We look at the Australian market, we see here just struggling to get bullish on the weekly and bullish on the daily, and just on the short term a little bit of bearishness with some downside targets, but new upside emerging, so not looking so bad either. Brent, been a big story this week, but really not much has changed in terms of the long-term position. We are still bearish on this chart, although we're starting to come through on the daily. Q1 is normally the strong quarter, so you'd expect a couple more months of difficulty for Brent. We're struggling on this 52.50 level, just can't get above it and hold it. Back into short-term bearish mode here on this chart. No clear downside targets and new upside targets, although this latest one not activated, but it does suggest we might see a better year for Brent next year. If we look at WTI, much the same picture, not quite yet bearish, but we do have a downside target of 6%. So a lot of volatility playing out in these markets. Crude, quite hard to call. Remember, take a look at the 1-minute charts there as well. Nat gas is in a bearish trend short term and hitting a bit of long-term resistance. That's why we show you these long-term charts, just hitting the long-term resistance on the lagging line there, but it is looking like it is coming through this cloud, and so we are just starting to see long-term potential there. Softs, not a lot of massive changes in softs. If we take a quick look at gold, still just holding this short-term bullishness. Upside targets 12.96 and 12.85, so that's looking a little bit better. Struggling a little bit this morning, but gold just starting to look a little bit better in the short term, and that's playing out in the silver chart as well. And we have upside potential on this chart of 4 to 8%, so looking better. Copper still very much on the floor on all time frames, so not looking great. Just a quick look at US bonds. The 10-year just teetering along on this 170s level. Do have some downside targets into the 160s, and we're below the cloud. So just suggests we might see a little bit more sell-off on the yield. But in fact, we are seeing these longer-term percentages up to 2.1, 2.17. So we are just seeing 2% as an inevitability for US yields. Quick look at the bellwethers. Apple, not much occurred there last night. Google did have quite a good move in the last few days, but this chart looking really stellar, the long-term chart. The tech is still looking pretty good, even though everyone says it at the top. It is interesting. We're seeing here on the short-term chart on Amazon there is a bit of a sellback, and Facebook back at the 130 mark, just getting back above that 130. Upside targets here, only 1 or 1.5% upside, but the medium-term targets are really in play, as much as 30% upside there. So quite interesting. That's it for today. Until Monday, happy charting. See you then.